Hey everyone, it's time for another tip talk. Haven't done one in a while, just haven't been motivated. So this is tip talk M for motivation. I picked this topic because I thought it could work at this time for us, both with our students and with ourselves. Haven't done a tip talk in a while. Sorry, but just haven't. Number one, I guess I didn't feel like there was a need. Everyone was pretty just dealing with whatever. And so I just didn't feel there was a need. And then I didn't feel like I had anything that would help to say. That sounds weird. But so I went back and saw an article that made me think of something that I think could help a little bit, because motivation can be hard at this time. So I went back to the Distance Learning Playbook, the unit on credibility, and it was talking about how to develop credibility with your students. And something I read was that students' belief they can learn from you had a really high effect size. I don't know if you remember, I'm sorry, Hattie. And Hattie's the guy who talked about effect size, and I clipped this from his book. Here, his is Barometer of Effect Size. This is the zone of desired effects. Students' belief that they can learn from you was 1.09. So this was a really big idea. And I think it's even more important when we're talking about learning from a distance, because we're all wondering about how effective that is. But if students don't believe they can learn from you at a distance, then I doubt that we're going to be able to have the effect size that we necessarily want. So how can we look at that? How can we make it better? Because we doubt it ourselves sometimes. A couple of things that I saw in this book that I pulled out. One was about, it was called being dynamic. How can we rekindle our passion for teaching? How can we rekindle their passion for learning? If we're not passionate or believe in what we're teaching, then it's going to be really hard for our students to have that passion. So how do we convey passion for learning? And I want us to think about that. Sometimes the ways we do it are, oh, I want them to know that we have lots of important work, so let's give them more work. Well, I don't know how that, anybody that's passionate about just more work. Now, I'm not saying the work doesn't need to be done, but I just think sometimes we can relook at that. The other thing is relatability. Do students have access to the learning? And this is as perceived by students. Can they relate to the learning that they're doing in your class? I mean, do you maybe need to look at that? What do students think about this topic or this learning or learning it in this way? So I thought that was a really interesting thing. And then this was the big guiding question that they had. How do you convey that their learning is important to you? How do you convey to your students that their learning is important to you? That's a question I'd really like you to ask yourself and think about. That's what I'm trying to think about. What can we do about that? There's so many things we don't have control over, but let's try and focus on the things we do have control over to help with motivation. And then, do your students believe they can learn from you? And then ask yourself, do you believe that students can learn from you? And maybe it's a matter of doing a check-in and some reevaluation. That's what I've had to do with a few certain things to get refocused. So I wish you the best. Hope everything's going all right. And maybe just a few questions to make you think about motivation just a little bit. I hope it's a message you're ready to hear. And if not, maybe later. Bye. Thanks.